It's no secret that there is a mental health crisis going on, with levels of depression and anxiety at record highs, especially among young people. And when we look at the data from highly developed countries over the last years, the situation just keeps getting worse. At the same time, we've also never had a higher rate of prescriptions for medications related to mental health conditions. And that's strange, isn't it? If all these pills were working, surely these graphs wouldn't look like this. What I have found in my own research and my own first-hand experience with this is that what you're being told about mental health may be completely wrong. I've discovered 4 ideas that changed the way I think about this forever. And I want to share them with you today. Is it possible that we live in a world that is making us all fat, sick, sad, tired, and lonely? And the solution to that is simply not going to come out of a pill bottle? Let's find out together. But first, I need to make an important disclaimer. I am not a medical professional, so please don't take anything I say here as medical advice. I'm just a guy with personal stakes in this matter because I myself suffered from depression through many of my teenage and adolescent years. And then later, in around 2017, I had a bout of really severe, debilitating depression that lasted for more than a year. And more recently, I've also worked with lots of men who struggle with addiction and depression and mental health problems. What I'm saying here is that to me, the mental health crisis is not some kind of an abstract thing. I am knee-deep in this. I see the brutal reality of this. And what I'm telling you here today in this video is basically what I wish someone had told me a long time ago, back when I was struggling with depression myself. So now you understand why I did so much research on this topic to begin with. And like I mentioned before, I discovered 4 really crucial ideas about mental health. The story that is currently being told is that some people just happen to have something wrong in their brain, and that makes them sad or anxious or leads to other mental health issues. It's a chemical imbalance, and possibly you just got genetically unlucky, right? For some reason you have the depression genes and now you're depressed. And all we have to do is fix that chemical imbalance in your brain. Just make sure that your brain is producing the right chemicals and hormones, and then you'll be right as rain. And that, of course, is the job of the pharma and medical industries. They will deliver the right pill to the right patients to fix this pesky problem. This story, unfortunately, might be completely wrong. And one hint is that, well, people are taking these medications that are supposed to fix these brain chemistry problems more than ever before, but we're also depressed and anxious more than ever before. Something's not adding up. So could it be that these pills aren't actually working? Let's take the example of depression, the mental health problem that I personally suffered from as well. The most commonly prescribed antidepressant is an SSRI, a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And in very simple terms, it's supposed to help your brain make more of the happy chemical serotonin and hold on to it for longer, therefore solving depression. But I found that the more research I did into SSRIs, the worse it looked. For example, there is this large-scale review that showed that there's actually no good evidence that depression is related to serotonin at all. So then trying to solve it with a medication that interacts with serotonin is maybe the wrong idea to begin with. But then that sounds a bit theoretical. What do these things do in practice? Well, some people who take SSRIs report that they feel a bit better for a bit of time. But how does it compare to other forms of treatment? Well, here's an interesting comparison. And what this shows is that, well, almost anything is better than an antidepressant. All the way down here, this is the effectiveness of the antidepressant pill, which is 0 or maybe slightly above 0. All kinds of forms of physical activity and exercise, from really mild exercise to more intense exercise, are more effective to help depressive patients. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a lot more effective than the pill. Even just the habit of taking walks is far more effective than the antidepressant. And also, side note, isn't it interesting to see that the most effective thing of all is dancing? That might seem strange, but I think we'll start to understand why this is a bit later in the video. Basically, in this study, the only things that are less effective than the antidepressant are someone talking to you about exercising or being on a wait list. So let me be blunt. In short, no, I don't think these things work. For most people, this isn't going to do anything. Which brings me to the second point. All of this stuff that works so much better than the pills are forms of exercise. When I was going through my severe depression, a book that I'm super happy I read is this, Spark by John Ratty. This completely blew my mind. This book is all about how exercise affects your brain in all kinds of ways, from your cognitive performance, so basically like your mental horsepower, things like your ability to focus, all the way to mental health conditions like depression and anxiety. What I took from this book is that the effects of exercise are so strong that they make everything else look like a joke in comparison. What I mean is, for example, if you want to improve your cognitive performance, there's no supplement or new trick you can take that is nearly as effective as exercise is. And equally, there are no pharmaceuticals that are as effective and work as consistently and with as large of an effect size as exercise does for dealing with mental health. The same author also wrote a book called Go Wild that puts all of this into an interesting evolutionary context that, to me, makes total sense. And it's basically this: your body was built to move. You are meant to be moving, working up a sweat, moving through landscapes. All of this is what you're evolutionarily programmed to do. And when you stop doing that, one of the consequences is that your brain doesn't work as well and you start having mental health problems. Also, an interesting note is that especially men tend to respond well to higher intensity forms of exercise when it comes to improving their mental health. And again, I think this makes sense. As a man, you have a body that is built to go and make shit happen out in the real world. So when you give yourself activities that are kind of the equivalent of things like hunting and building and physical labor, that basically sends your brain and body a signal that you're doing the right thing, you're on track, things are going well. And when you're just sitting there all day, not moving, that sends warning signals through your system. So in short, the conclusion is that exercise is extremely effective at both building resilience against mental health issues and helping you overcome mental health issues. And this may be especially true if we add one more factor, which brings us back to the strange effectiveness of dancing. Let's talk about the social factor. Johan Hari is the author of the book Lost Connections. And in it, he lays out how in the modern world, people are becoming increasingly disconnected. We're becoming disconnected from ourselves, from each other, from nature, from a sense of purpose. The internet and social media, which was supposed to connect us all and bring us all closer together, somehow ended up doing the opposite. Increasingly, we're looking at screens instead of at each other. And many of us are spending more time relating to content creators and influencers and fictional characters than to family and friends. What Hari shows in his book is that this kind of disconnection directly leads to mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. If we look at how we live, it's really no wonder that we're suffering. And that brings me to the final and maybe most important of the 4 ideas. What if there's nothing wrong with you? What if your depression is a healthy response to a sick society? Earlier, I laid out the common story that is being told about mental health. Well, this story contains a hidden message. And the hidden message is there's something wrong with you. You're the problem. Your brain is somehow broken. You should be feeling normal and living a normal life, but for some reason, you're depressed and you're anxious and you're unmotivated to go to school or to work and you feel nervous around other people. If only you had a normal brain, everything would be fine. This, I believe, is a lie, and an evil one at that. And we start being told this lie from an early age. We force children to sit still in a classroom and listen to a boring adult tell them stuff they're not interested in. And if a child doesn't want to or can't sit still through that, we go, there's something wrong with this child. It's got ADHD. Here's a pill for that. You see how the message here is there's something wrong with that child that doesn't want to sit still, rather than there's something wrong with this whole system here. And it just keeps going like that. Like these days, people are super disconnected from each other and everyone's flooding their brain all day long for hours and hours a day with loads of content that is made to be as stimulating as possible, which often means it is made to outrage you. It is made to separate you into teams, right? There's team us versus team them. And look at how bad they are. And we're making fun of them and we're outraged at how evil they are and so on. And this is what we're spending hours and hours a day consuming while we're more and more disconnected from each other, while we're sitting still, not getting enough movement, not getting enough sunlight, not having a sense of purpose and direction in our lives anymore. And then when as a result of all that, you start feeling depressed, you're told that you're the problem. You are not the problem. There is nothing wrong with you. And that might be the most rebellious idea of all. So those are the ideas that I wish someone had told me about a long time ago. And if you yourself have been struggling with mental health, I hope you find something in here that helps you. I wanted to make this video because I think it's important that we make this part of the conversation. I think this whole situation of the medicalization of mental health is a problem on two levels, because it's not just that maybe the pills are a solution that don't work. It's worse than that. It's that the pills can become a distraction from the thing that could actually work. So if you believe this framing is, oh, there's something wrong with my brain, here are some pills, I'm going to take these, and then what usually happens is, oh, this doesn't work, what's a different type of pill, let's try that, oh, it doesn't work, and so on and so forth. That is a distraction from the real thing. It's a distraction. It takes you away from the chance to deal with what's really going on, which might mean that you have to look at your life circumstances and go, well, what here is making me depressed, and how can I change that? Taking the pills and expecting that to be the solution might distract you from the fact that perhaps more exercise, more movement, perhaps some exercise and movement outside in the sunlight every once in a while could make a much bigger difference. Basically what I'm saying is if you're expecting the solution over here, you're not looking over there. But also expecting the solution from a pill distracts you from just looking at how am I living? What am I doing to my mind? What am I doing to my body? Is there stuff in my environment? Are there circumstances of my life that make it actually quite reasonable for me to be depressed and anxious and whatever else? And how do I change those life circumstances? Yes, this isn't as easy, right? It would be nice if the solution just came in the form of a pill. It would be nice if you could just take the pill and that somehow instantly makes your problems go away. But what I'm talking about here is, well, you have to take responsibility and you have to have agency. You have to make something happen in your life. And you have to go through changes that may be uncomfortable, but that's life. I guess in conclusion, what I'm saying is that instead of trying to make the problem go away or trying to numb yourself against the problem with pharmaceuticals, the right solution may be to take more responsibility and to live more fully. And if you take only one thing away from this video, let it be this: there's nothing wrong with you. And that belief is a better starting point for your healing than to assume that you're somehow broke. All right, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button and leave a comment if you want to help me spread this message further. It's one of the best things you can do to basically tell the algorithm to show this type of content to more people. And of course, if you have questions about this and if you have your own experiences to share, go ahead and leave a comment. I try to read and reply to them all. Yes, that's it. Okay.